There's 10 years between my sister and I. I'm the oldest. She's the one wearing the graduation outfit. She's a solicitor now and works up in Bristol. Now, we had very different educations. My almost 4 GCSEs compared to her 12 A-star GCSEs. Her school was paid for, my school wasn't. And what I remember from being at school is that there was this kind of rumbling under the surface of how uncool it is to actually pay attention and to want to learn and listen to the teacher. Her school was the complete opposite. So from age 12, she was kind of thrown into an environment where it was cool to learn. And growth was important, and it was important to have ideas, and she would go to debating classes over lunchtime. I didn't find a culture like that until I was 30 years old and joined Breathe just 4 years ago. And actually, when I first joined Breathe, I knew it was different from day one. I started looking after 1 or 2 people on our onboarding team at the time, and very quickly my roles and responsibilities have changed, and that's because people have believed in me, and Breathe does have that space that allows you to grow and try something new, and I can honestly say that Breathe has given me real purpose, and I just want as many people and employees as possible to be able to feel that. The lady on the left-hand side is a lady called Deanna. Some of you may recognise her name. I met her 3 years ago. I had the privilege of interviewing her. And when I met her, this is really memorable because I could feel the nerves coming off of her. And I couldn't quite understand why, because I'm not a particularly scary person. But she was a real introvert. I'd actually never met anybody like it before. She wasn't quite sure what she was doing or where she wanted to go. All she knew is that she needed a job and it had to be as close to home as possible. As you do in interviews, you start digging into what people like doing socially, so what she was up to at the weekend or where she liked to go on holiday. And it became apparent quite quickly that she hadn't been on a train to Brighton on her own. She was just so unconfident. Anyway, fast forward 2 weeks, she joined us at Breathe, and she joined us on our support teams. So she was looking after our lovely customers. And it became apparent really early on that she had an interest in the technical side of Breathe. So rather than just politely answering the customer's question, I would see her sort of nagging the developers, saying, well, what's actually happening behind the scenes here? She wanted to know why the software was behaving a particular way, and she just got it straight away. It was amazing. She made friends with a couple of our developers, and with a bit of encouragement from us and from her amazing manager, she started to teach herself how to code. Now, this was a bit of a side hobby because she had to look after our customers as well. Anyway, a year later, she's now a developer and she works in London, so she commutes there on the train every day on her own. And this is important because we knew when we were encouraging the learning of her to sort of follow her passion, we knew Breathe weren't ready to be able to offer her a job as a developer at that time. There wasn't space in the team, we couldn't do it. But anyway, we're incredibly proud of her. She no longer works with us. But the transformation from shy person that I interviewed to developer in London took just 1 year. So I truly believe that 80% of what my sister's managed to do and what Deanna's managed to do, and to some extent myself, has been about how they've done it. It's been about them. But 20% is to do with the environment that was there. And actually, as leaders, if we don't provide that safe space, that key 20%, then we're not going to get to see the 80%. So we're going to have a bit of a moment of truth. Can everyone pop their hands up if your company has values at the moment? Okay, fantastic. Keep your hands up if you know them off by heart. Okay, got some hands going down now. And keep your hands up still if you can actively see people in your company living your values each day. Okay, so we've got about half of the room. Okay. So consistent with what research tells us, we have absolutely no problem setting the values, but we have a little problem living them. So where's the gap? Edgar Schein was a former professor. Some of you may have heard of him. He's very famous. He's got a very well-known organisational culture structure. And I'm going to talk you through that very briefly today. And as I do, perhaps you can start having a think about how these things show up in your business. So starting right at the outside, we've got the artifacts and symbols. These can often be described as the things you can see. So these could be your office building, they could be your company logo, they could be the dress code, what people actually wear around the office, maybe even the office jokes. Very, very visible, and they can be seen by people who are even external to your company. So these things very quickly say something about your company culture. If we come in a little bit, we've got the espoused values. So espoused values is kind of like the learn or the taught values. So it might be your company strategy. It might be your actual set of values and your mission statement. It could even be the words written on your website. And then we've got the really powerful bit, the heart of the company, the underlying assumptions. And this is really where the magic happens. This can be described as, it's just the way we do things around here. Very hard to spot and very hard to change. It's the characteristics, it's the behaviours. It's the respect that your teammates have for one another. It could be the cross-team collaboration. The important thing about this model, I think, is that really we're looking for alignment. And when we talk about where's the gap between writing the values and actually living them, I think this model shows it perfectly. So really, you can have all the beanbags and football tables you want in the world in your office out here, but if people don't take a lunch break at your work, there's going to be a massive disconnect. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Breathe company values, but more importantly, the way that we decided the values. So when I joined the company 4 years ago now, we had the fantastic values. There was such an amazing foundation there, and we've grown fairly quickly. So with that, we thought, actually, maybe our values need to evolve with our business. I don't see the values as you set them once and then you kind of forget about them. If your company's growing, they can also be a little bit flexible. So what we did is we got a group of people. So this wasn't the leadership team, this wasn't just senior managers. We got a group of people from around the company and we went off-site for the day. I went to a slightly more, I think it was a posh hotel actually, but it was a little bit more of a, I remember the coffees being really expensive. But it was a little bit more of a creative space, get people out of the office. Each of us were given an A4 piece of paper and we were asked to think about the person who was the most breathe. So we started with the assumptions and how people behave. I think everybody around the table was probably thinking about somebody different, but it didn't matter. We then listed each of their characteristics and behaviours that we thought were amazing and that really sort of showed who we are as a company. And as we went round the table, we quickly noticed that the characteristics and behaviours fell very clear very clearly into 3 categories. So we had one that was very people-based. I treat everyone with respect and always walk a mile in their shoes. We also had one that was about growth. I take responsibility for my personal and professional journey by seeking to continuously learn and improve. And we also had one about your sort of attitude and approach to projects and tasks and to work in general. I take a proactive approach to my work by demonstrating energy and enthusiasm in everything I do. So there's no surprises here. People first is our first value. Growth mindset and can-do attitude. Now the thing that I think we've seen, or the thing that's sort of helped us be successful in kind of cementing these values, is that we've actually given the team a bit of direction. So I think it was mentioned earlier, it's very difficult if perhaps your value is honesty or innovate. So we found that actually having a few words that tie in nicely gives someone something that they can look to. And then it's very clear around the organisation that those are being achieved and they're being lived. So you know when you've got your values right, when everyone in your company can look at them and say, that's us on a really good day. So I've got three things to take away. The first thing is to be yourself. If you're looking at revisiting or evolving your values or really digging into your culture, look at who you've already got working in the organisation. Think back to the slide before, the assumptions, the heart of the business, what people are doing anyway, and then just make it a little bit better. Then you've got share the load. So I mentioned before that when we sort of revisited the values, that we took people from all areas of the organisation to come and help us. It's so much better when you have more heads in the room. If people can be on you or sort of be with you on your journey from the beginning, especially when you're trying to change something, it's really powerful. And the third, and I think the most important thing, is to live it. So if you really do hold your values dear to your heart, like we do, they should be apparent in everything that you do. So think about an employee journey. Before someone's even joined your company, they will be there looking at a job description. And it should be quite apparent. They should have a bit of a fuzzy feeling in their heart to say, yeah, I'm going to apply for this job. This seems like a company that care. To when they come and interview with you. Maybe you can use your scenario-based questions. Maybe you can shape those around your values. So tell me a time when you've... the other thing we do at Breathe, we happen to use the kudos feature in the app quite a lot. You can actually customize, I'm sure some of you may know this, but you can customize the kudos types. So ours are our 3 values. So any time that anybody is saying thank you, well done, you've been amazing, is always tied into our 3 values. So just a reminder from sort of where I started. 80% of what people do, they will do anyway. Sometimes they'll make it because they just want to work hard and they just want to go for it. But 20% is down to the environment that we create. If we don't create the 20%, we will never see the 80%. I'm going to finish in just a second with a really nice quote. But I just wanted to say, if anyone spots me outside, sort of lingering around, come and talk to me and share what you're doing. Let me know what your values and culture are, because we're still learning, and I'm desperate to hear from all of you. So I'm going to end on this quote from the classic Simon Sinek. The role of a leader is to not come up with all the great ideas. The role of a leader is to create an environment where great ideas can happen.